From Tessa on Zoom, do you think last night's debate will have any impact on undecided voters? And what do you think it means to be the least racist person in the room?
Well, I think I don't know slash am not so sure that really any debate sways undecided voters. I think I think the first debate certainly did, because I think it was a lot of folks' first time actually seeing Trump unedited on television. And so, I think in a way that swayed some independent voters. But overall, I believe that there's a misconception about what an independent or undecided voter is. People think of politics in a very two-dimensional way. At least I think political analysts do, where they say the left is over here, the left is over here, the right is over here, and it's flipped because we're on Zoom. And the undecided and independent voters are right here. And our politics are a lot more three-dimensional than that. And really, it's that, an independent or undecided voter may have like certain social views here, certain economic views here, certain issues that they prioritize there. And it's not just about tipping over the scale one way or another. And so, it might have swung independent voters, but I think what's really important is that debates define a window of how people are talking about a given policy. It defines the window of how we talk about LGBTQIA rights, for example. It defines the window of how we discuss climate. And, I think that we have a long ways to go in shifting that window overall, but that we are doing the work.
Great. So the next question is from Mika on Zoom, and we're getting a lot of questions like this one. What would you say to the activists that don't want to vote for Biden because maybe he wasn't their first choice?
So here's how I feel about the issue. First of all, is that I think it's really important that we respect individuals who are choosing to be vulnerable in sharing their concerns, right? So I think it's also quite ironic about how some Democrats will bend over backwards in coddling Trump voters to get them to vote for them. But when it comes to non-voters, some of those same Democrats that will bend over backwards to accommodate those folks who supported Trump, they will become very abusive and rabid towards people that are saying, can I support this? Is it this whole system that's the problem? And so I think that, step number one is to actually meet people with patience if they are acting in good faith, right? There are plenty of people who act in bad faith that just want to like toss this out. But if someone is bringing this concern to you in good faith, then, engage them and don't try to just abuse them, because bullying someone into, voting has never, ever worked. So that's first and foremost. The second thing I would say is that there are a lot of different perspectives. And a lot of times in our politics, we have this political culture of once a candidate is nominated and once a candidate for a party is nominated, that like the whole party and establishment rallies around that person as perfect. And I think there's a problem around like the saviorism culture in our politics in general. It's okay to say Joe Biden is not perfect, and that it's okay to say that, and to support him, not because you agree with him on everything, not even because you think his policies are good, but at the very least in the stakes of this election, when I think about this as an activist and approaching this question from an organizer, it's, I am casting this vote out of solidarity with our most marginalized and vulnerable communities. And there are some folks that say, oh, these people didn't have jobs or they were suffering before. Absolutely, because our system has been failing marginalized communities. But I don't think anyone can really look at me in the eye and genuinely tell me that immigrants who are having forced hysterectomies, who are being put in cages in camps, who are being separated from their children in some of the largest human rights violations at scale that we have seen in a very long time. I don't think anyone can look me in the eye and say that they won't be better off in a Biden administration, that they won't be more protected under a Biden administration. And so, you know, I think that a good argument is, you know, this isn't always just about support for the candidate. We can make tactical votes to protect and act in solidarity with marginalized communities. And then the other perspective is that from a political point of view, you want to elect the person who is most vulnerable to your activism. And it is very clear that Donald Trump is accountable to no one. And I do believe that a Biden administration would be able to be more vulnerable to advocacy and to not just vulnerable, but, you know, receptive to grassroots movements. Yeah. And I think that is worth something, especially when the alternative is this for another 4 years.
I'm going to quote Annie Leonard again. What she said harkens kind of back to something you said earlier. When you vote, you're choosing an opponent.
Yes.
Wouldn't you rather push a centrist than fight a fascist?
Yes, 100,000%.
Yeah.
Thank you, Congresswoman. From Trevor on Zoom, who are you most inspired by right now?
I've always been most inspired by everyday people. And I know that sounds kind of strange, but when I meet with my constituents and I see the things that they've been doing, you know, these individual stories that are so powerful,